the number one question I get is like early on, Caleb, how did you get people to trust you? How do you get people to trust you? And it's like I truly cared for people, and it wasn't something that I just like tried to trick them. Like I would literally give them my money if we screwed up. That was the mentality I had,
I like
and
that.
I treated everyone like family. And even at a 19, 20-year-old, I never let money get in the way.
All right, welcome back everybody to the $1 Million Secret Show. In today's video and today's podcast, we have a very, very good friend of mine. Caleb Guilliams is in the building with us, and my friend Caleb is here to pour out all of the secrets you need to not only grow your business, but to maximize your finances. This dude is a young gun, a young blood that knows what he's talking about, and it was such a God thing when we got connected, and he's becoming a great, great friend of mine. So Caleb, I'm ready to pour out and help some people. Are you ready to do the same?
Dude, I'm excited to show up in a very, very powerful way and serve your audience, and just love you, dude, and very grateful to be on here.
Yeah, right back at you, man. And so guys, listen, today I want to bring on Caleb because this dude has a vast amount of knowledge that I feel like could help if you're an online entrepreneur or maybe just an entrepreneur that's not selling online yet. He has so much knowledge from building businesses. He's a professional whenever it comes to using life insurance as an investment vehicle. There's so many different realms. And so I said, there's something that Caleb knows that could be valuable to our audience. So what I want to do is, Caleb, man, let's just chat a little bit. Let the people know who you are, because you've accomplished so much over the past 5-10 years or so that I would butcher just trying to tell people exactly how much you've accomplished. So in just a couple of minutes, man, tell people a little bit about who you are and how you help people.
Yeah, so I grew up in central Wisconsin. I was the oldest of 6 kids. My dad was a PhD molecular biologist. I was going to follow in his footsteps for about a day, and then I took biology, and I was like, not going to go down the science path and become a doctor. And so was homeschooled and was really at a interesting part of my life because I was very, very short for my age. I was like 13 years old, like super, super short. Also struggled with dyslexia. And so
Really, I
reading
didn't know
was
that part.
difficult. Yeah, so reading was difficult, and I had I was a very insecure kid. And I remember one of the most embarrassing moments that I experienced was getting in front of my peer group at like a Christian Bible camp and totally forgetting what I was going to say on stage, and then like fumbling through my 2 sentences that I sloppily wrote down and couldn't even read. And I remember that moment, and my mom said something like very cliche, but like stuck with me and became like a catalyst to help me do what I'm doing now. She said, Caleb, the things that you can't control, like your identity's not in it. So like I couldn't do anything about my height. So why am I tying any attention or putting any negative energy into that? But the things that I can control, like my reading, even though it's tougher for me than the average kid, I have a moral obligation to go all in. And I share that story because I think the same way as I think about money and business is we've been given so much, and you may have to try harder than the average person, but there's so much in our control while we're alive. And I think a lot of times it's easy to get bought into this theme of like, this is outside of my control. Like, no, it is not. if you're watching this, I'm looking you right in the eye and saying, your inputs matter. And my mom told me that in a really great part of my life. And so I went on to work at a very prestigious job, gutting chickens. And so I gutted chickens for a couple of years and made $1 for every chicken that I processed. And that's where my journey of money
I want to know
began.
how many chickens did you process during this time, man?
I mean, dude, I probably made $25,000-$30,000 in my
Are you
maybe
serious?
that's high. Maybe I'm totally inflating those numbers. But I mean, I could crank out a chicken a minute, dude. And I worked there for a couple years, and so it was. I look back on that time, and it was a lot of fun, man. And I got paid $1 for every chicken that I processed, and so I would also look at the ways that we could be more efficient while working. And so I really kind of ruined the chicken farm because I found every way that we could make money, and then I figured out a way to maximize, like any entrepreneur, maximize every part. And then I brought in other people, so my colleagues, and we figured out how to maximize the profit while
Right.
working the least, and it was awesome. And so that was great. And then I read two books, The Richest Man in Babylon, which opened up the
Dude,
door
that
to
book's
like
so good.
so good about money principles. And then I read another book, which is Good to Great by Jim Collins, which was like blew my mind around like what it meant to be a leader and what it would mean to be like a great business leader. And so those two books were, again, I will say the word catalyst, because I was like, man, if I could do one thing, if I could be a Fortune 500 CEO of a business in money, like that would be amazing. And so that was like, 15, 16-year-old Caleb's dream. Then I got a job at a bank, which is another long story, but just connected with a guy who was on the board of Community First Bank in our hometown. One phone call later, I was a teller at Community First Bank. And from there, dude, I made it my mission that the bank was going to be a platform, was going to be a springboard to what I ultimately wanted to do, which is to be a Fortune 500 CEO of
Right.
a company that helps people with money. And so I learned everything from tellering to being on the phone, to talking to people, to work in our loan department. I wrote radio ads. I was on the radio. I went to networking events. I got to work in our investment department, and that opened up a door when I was 19 years old. Our guy that was running our investment department left, and at 19 years old, I became one of the youngest people that I know of in the world to have that
That's what I was about to
crazy.
stop you and stop you and
Yeah,
talk about. You don't hear 19-year-olds being the heads of like these investment departments, especially at a bank. Like that is crazy,
right.
dude. And so what age did you start as a teller?
17, and
17. So listen,
yeah,
like that shows you what you can do in just one
yeah,
or 2 years.
totally.
Like most people don't want to spend time doing the hard work. Most people don't want to be in that teller position. They'd rather just jump up to the investment manager or whatever that position was called, right? And so you were able to use that 2 years, maximize the 2 years there, and the opportunity arose and you took it.
Yep. And really, this is the theme, is like I could have made a lot more money in other places. When I took over the bank's investment department, I still was making $8 an hour. People are shocked by that. They're like,
Are
Caleb,
you
how could you
serious?
like? I was like, I didn't care. I didn't care. I actually, not only was I only making $8 an hour, but I defer, like I was only allowed to get paid for so many hours. So after that, I would work for free, and people are freaking out. Like, oh, Caleb, I didn't care because I was not there for the money. I was not there to trade my time for money. I was there to learn experiences. I was there, like the bank gave me so much. I can't even. I feel like I'm indebted to the bank, okay,
Right.
because of how much they gave to me. And so yeah, when I got to work in the investment department, I got paid incentive and all that other stuff. So it's like I was fine, but it was like I don't think people realize like my mindset, and a lot of people go into different jobs with like a very bad mindset from a standpoint of like how can I get all the money I can, and they're not asking how can I provide the most amount of value, because I fundamentally know that value, like money, is just currency that will flow to value creation. And I did, that's one thing I did well. Like I learned a ton in my journey. One thing I always realized was I was never going to be a value sucker. I was going to be a value giver. And so that's essentially the paradigm which I went into the bank's investment department, and I um, connected with a ton of people. I realized listening is key. I realized that people don't care what you know until they know how much you care. And like I cared and I listened well, and I got really clear about what was important to them. And even though I was far, 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 far from being an expert or knew what I was doing in the money space, I just took where they wanted to go. I took their financial situation, and then I went to other people, experts, mentors, and they helped me craft a quote unquote financial plan or a strategy to help people best get to where they wanted to go. And through that journey, I realized that number one, the financial industry is really, really horrible at getting clear about what you want. We're not good at asking questions. We also don't think outside the box. So we automatically want to figure out how much you can save and invest. And then we're here to pitch you some product, mutual fund, insurance product. And like, it's very transactional. And it's like that is one of the reasons why I just have such a bad taste in my mouth when I think about financial planning and how a lot of people think about money. And so I always knew that there was a better way. I always loved the word efficiency, because the definition of efficiency is to remove any friction to get to where you want to go. I always loved that. And so I was like, if we could just help people be efficient, regardless if you're an entrepreneur or an employee, you should want to be more efficient because you got a desired result and you want to get there faster. And so as a advisor, a coach, I just number one would get clear on where you wanted to go. And then number two, I would try to highlight anything that could be friction that's getting in your way. And if I could remove that, like, would you want to work with me? And so that's kind of how I got started. And when I turned 21, I knew that the bank, while it was an amazing place to help me get started, I wasn't able to continue to further my mission of helping people see and reach their highest potential, help people be efficient, because there's a lot of restrictions. I was in central Wisconsin. I couldn't market online. And the bank was right. Like it would have been too risky for the bank to take this risk on this 21-year-old that wanted to do like a internet marketing game. And so we left on super great terms. And I started BetterWealth and had a couple people crazy enough to believe in the mission and vision of what we were all about. And we got started, and the rest is history, man. Wrote a book, made a podcast that's still live to this day. Started speaking around the country, and we grew from very humble beginnings, $250 office space under Papa John's, to now having clients in all 50 states and having a team of 20 and growing, and not just doing like we do insurance, investments, taxes, coaching, and it's all through the lens of how can we help people be more efficient. Efficiency and intentional living are like our two themes. You're not wealthy if you're not living intentionally, and if you're not efficient and there's friction that's getting in your way, if we can remove that and help you show up more powerfully, we win. And so that's the story of Better Wealth.
Dude, I love that, man. And I don't think you give yourself enough credit on what you guys have achieved and what you've accomplished. And so you went from the bank teller to head of the investments department, and then you left and went to BetterWealth, right? And what you guys have done at BetterWealth, and I'm going to be honest with you guys go check out his site. I'm going to put it below. You guys need to definitely connect with this man, because what they're doing is amazing. They're transforming lives all across the US and even the world because of his content online. But dude, tell me, like, as a 21-year-old, you're transitioning to starting your own company. Like, I'm sure you've learned tons through that process. I'm sure it wasn't always sunshine and rainbows at the beginning. So like, let's talk a little bit about the early days of BetterWealth, right?
Yeah.
You had this vision, but was it easy starting that company? Like, what were some of the beginning trials that you guys hit in your company at the beginning of BetterWealth?
There's two talking points here that I think will be very valuable for you, the listener. So talking point number one is, the number one question I get is like, early on, Caleb, how did you get people to trust you? How did you get people to trust you? People almost want like what's the hack? What's the TikTok tip, And it's like, I truly cared for people, and it wasn't something that I just like tried to trick them. Like, I would literally give them my money if we screwed up. That was the mentality I had. I treated everyone like family. And even at a 19, 20-year-old, I never let money get in the way, to the point that starting Better Wealth and writing my first book, The And Asset, I was living at home. Why? Because I wouldn't be able to authentically show up if I had a higher nut to crack, higher expenses, because then I would feel like I have to sell you on something. And the moment you have to sell something, I think you really lose your ability, your objective nature of doing the right thing. You could push back on that, but for me, it was very, very important that even from day one, that I was going to tell you the truth and put myself in your shoes, not just as a way to make myself feel good for selling you something, but like I truly did that. And that's one thing I look back on that I'm very proud of. And I think that like not everyone has a natural ability to communicate and all that. And I'll say that communicating with people and all that always came maybe easier than the average person. But like I'm telling you, if you just seek first to understand like where someone's at, and you really take time to learn what they're trying to do, and you're not financially incentivized or motivated, you can put that aside and say, what can I give this person via products or services or people I connect to? How can I help this person get closer to where they want to go? If you have that heart, it doesn't matter what business you're in, people are going to be attracted to you and good things are going to happen. And Better Wealth, very much, even though we're on the internet, grew because of goodwill. And that goodwill was built even in the bank, when whether you were a client or not. I think the feeling I gave you it was something that you're like, man, I have grandchildren older than you, but there's something about you that I like. I can't tell you how many times I was told that, and that can compound. So I'm not telling you that to pat myself on the back. I'm telling you, like, that was the secret of Better Wealth, and that is a thing that is still foundational to this day. And if we lose, we're going to lose our way. It doesn't matter how good we are at marketing and all that. If we lose our ability to serve people well, then why be in business? So that's number one.
Right. And
Do you have any question?
it's not sustainable long term either, right?
Right.
I mean, for
It's
me
not. And
personally, I mean,
yeah,
it may be, but I wholeheartedly believe that the way you just said that and the way you structured that is the only way to go.
right.
Like if you want a business that is going to thrive and a business that is going to not only just thrive for the now, but thrive for the long term, you have to lead with goodwill and lead with value. That's what we've been talking about. If you guys have been listening to this podcast over the past few weeks, that's what we've been talking about is leading with value, right? We've been talking about, hey, with Adrian Boycell, right? We brought him on. He was talking about whenever it came to branding, we were talking about adding value. We've been talking about whenever had the interview with Paula Chavez, right? And we were talking about adding value through sales. And so you guys see there's a common theme here. And I feel like value is a buzzword, right? But it sometimes gets overused. But I love that goodwill, man. And so you said you let out with goodwill, and that's kind of what set the foundation from the start.
Right. And then I'm going to share my second point, which is the whole business framework. So if people ask me, like, Caleb, how do you make investment decisions, or how do you, decide to go into business with someone, which is the same question for me. Cause when I think of investing, I'm not just thinking about money. I'm thinking about time, credibility, and all those other things that are
People and
inputs
yeah.
into something. And so it comes down to value leveraging. Two words: value leveraging. And I didn't know this at the time of starting Better Wealth, but I thought this. Like, I was thinking in this way, is like, okay, number one, you have to provide value. What is value? Value comes in a form of service or a product. You can be valuable to an employer. You can be valuable as a service business like you and I. You can make a product that hopefully is valuable. Not all services and products are created equal. They all have different perceived values, and some are, have a large group of people. It's a large demand, and some people are super valuable, but they might be the best kept secret, or they might be super valuable to one or two people. And so the economics of value is a whole podcast in itself, but it really comes down to, who's this service or product for. It could be an employer, it could be the marketplace. What pain point are you, solving, and how are you solving it? And if you can answer those three questions, it's like, okay, that's how you get value. And then we can debate on how can we increase the perception of value. I knew I was in the business of helping people be more efficient, unlock intentional living. I was in the business of helping people with their get their money thing figured out, and really, like, trying to figure out how could I provide value in that. And all my money was on efficiency. How can I help people be more efficient? Then leverage is the second word, and leverage is amplifying your ability to create value. Majority of people are providing value to people, but they're not wealthy or influential because they haven't applied leverage to their business, to their message, to their platform. And so leverage could come in form of pouring money. It could come in form of your network. It could come in form of your ability to communicate. It could come in your form of writing a book. It could come in form of your ability to amplify that message. It could come in form of AI or a website. All these little lever tools help you, hopefully, take your value and expand that value. So in a summary, whether you're investing, your money, whether you're investing your time or whatnot, I first need to understand, how is this value being created? Is what I'm investing in valuable? Check yes or no. If the answer is no, don't leverage it. The worst thing you can do is apply leverage to non-valuable things, because you're pouring gasoline on your business. But if the answer is yes, then I ask the question, how can I what's the best way to amplify those outputs or results? And so even in getting started, I self-published a book. I started a podcast and interviewed people, increasing my network, but it made content where I wasn't the expert. I started speaking. I started looking for strategic partners. All these things, even though I couldn't articulate it at the time, were creating levers to help amp up and create more credibility for Better Wealth, so that we started very humbly, and now we're in a place where we're able to serve a lot more people. That's a result of increasing our value, but mainly increasing the leverage because we are working with way more leverage today than 5 or 6 years ago.
Dude, so many golden gems there. But one thing I've noticed about you, man, is you're really good at the strategic partnerships. Is like, and that's something that we've sat down over dinner and talked about. You're wanting to focus on. And I feel like a lot of the entrepreneurs that are listening to this right now, that's something that I've been like the past year. And so it was funny when we sat down at dinner, us talking about
Yes,
this was like
so fun.
right on
Yeah.
point, right? Something that we've been talking about and really dwelling on over the past year was like, who can we latch onto that can
Yeah.
help us get further faster? Who has what we need and who needs what we have, vice versa, right?
Yep.
And so if you're an entrepreneur here listening to this and you're like, hey, Caleb, I love what you're talking about, but like I don't have the money, right? Or I don't have, find people who complement what you have, add value to them and let them add value to you, right? Create those strategic partnerships will take you faster in your business, take you further in your business, I should say, than I think almost anything.
Yep.
Caleb, let's talk about this a little bit. Like, how are you guys using strategic partnerships right now? I know, but let's tell the audience. And if
Yep.
people are here and they're like, hey, I want to use some strategic partnerships as a lever, right? Like,
Yep.
what would be some tips for people whenever it comes to
Yeah.
partnerships?
It's very simple. When you're thinking about a strategic partnership, your main client is the person you're hoping to partner with. Okay? So they have a business, they provide either a service or a product, and their goal is to sell that service or product and provide value. So the question that you should have, or I will have, is how can I provide more value to their service or product and create a win-win scenario for everybody. So the way that we do it, and it's very clean, is like we have a coaching side of the business, we have a life insurance side of the business, we have a tax side of the business. I'm going to leave off of our investment side because there's more regulations that muddy the water
Right.
there. We have insurance, coaching, and tax. The cool thing is, we'll take our coaching, for example. We have something called the financial x-ray. The financial x-ray is a very valuable way that, we can essentially show you exactly where you're at, just like a chiropractor or doctor could. If they took an x-ray of your physical body, we can do that same thing for your financial, situation. And so it's like we sell that on our website. But what I realized is we could take that same thing, embed it with other people's offers. We win because we're getting to, know people that we get new people into our ecosystem, and we either give a discounted price, or in some cases, we may even decide to give the X-ray away for free if it's the right type of person, because they have the right type of audience. And so instead of us paying for marketing, we're like, hey, we'll take the loss leader. We'll spend, a couple $100 if it's the right person. The other scenario could be is the way that we convert for taxes is we take someone's tax situation, we show them what they currently are paying, and we show them what they could be paying. It's beautiful, right? You're paying $50,000. You do this, and this. You can drop it to 50, 60%. We can help you with that. And we're going to take a fraction of what your tax savings and implement it. Like the offer is pretty solid. Imagine us going to somebody, and we currently do that for free. Imagine us going somewhere and they might be like a financial advisor, but they might not do taxes, or they might be property and casualty, or they might be doing a launch. And we could say, listen, you're selling this package over here. What if you included a tax analysis? What does that do for you? That increases your ability to be a rock star to your clients. What does that do for us? It gives us the more opportunities to serve those people. And who knows, there could be a win on the back end, but you want it to be so good that even if there wasn't a win on the back end, people would be attracted to that because it increases their service or product. So that's a way that we have used strategic partnerships. And that's why I'm really bullish on this and believe that it's the number one thing that we could do that could take our business to the next level.
100%, man. And I think it's not just, Caleb's not the only one using this. There's people that you guys know and watch on YouTube that are using this. People that you're reading books about, they use strategic partnerships. I mean, for example, Grant Cardone just did an event. Caleb, you know this. He just did an event, a little bit, what was that, a month ago, from the time of recording this video. And he leveraged strategic partnerships to get his virtual event out to 500,000 plus people. I think through this effort, Grant Cardone, he reached through strategic partnerships, I'm sure he reached, not like get signed up, but reached over 1 million or 2 million people
Yep.
or maybe way more, just through partnering with the right people and adding value to them and figuring out what they need and just doing exactly what Caleb just talked about. And so in your business right now, if you're online and you're selling a service or you're selling maybe even a product, right? We'll just figure out ways to implement what Caleb just said and it'll change your life forever. And I know this because I've seen so many people experience this. My own self, I've seen this, but I've literally seen my one of my great friends, David. He skyrocketed, and you know David, Caleb. I mean, we've seen through strategic partnerships with him what's happened. I've seen through another friend, same thing. He's blown up his actually financial firm through strategic partnerships. There's so many different leverages. It doesn't have to be just if you're
Yep.
in the same industry as Caleb. It could be any industry. Find ways to use strategic partnerships and get creative, right? There's not one size fits all. And that's why I love these strategic partnerships. I love them because you have the creativity to do whatever you want, right? I mean, you
Right.
have the creativity to add value to people in certain ways. For Caleb, I would say, hey, dude, like I'll do this for you. I'll be able to help you in this way. But then I turn around and go to my good friend David or Jordan or anybody and say, hey, this is what it would look like with you. And so if you're here and you're like, how do I get started with strategic partnerships? Implement what just Caleb just said and realize that it's not a one size fits all. It's very relationship based. And that's why I love it. It's just really strong relationship based. You have to sit down and get to know people, get to know their businesses, get to know their services, their offers,
Yep.
and then you can make decisions and make it a win-win from there, right? And I don't just make it a win-win, I make it a win-win-win, right? A win for me, a win for the strategic partner, and a win for the people on the other side of their walls, right? Their business walls, the people on the other side of their business email list, right? Or their text list or any of their
Yep.
clients, right? The people they're reaching. So how can we make it a win for not only their strategic partnership, but the people that are going to effectively, or that are going to be affected by it later on. So dude, I'm enjoying this conversation, man. You're opening up a lot of great gems
Well,
here for
and
people.
dude, you are a king at this. So I would encourage if you're watching or listening to this and being like, okay, where do I begin? Um, reach out to Michael, and I'm sure he can figure out a win-win scenario and how he can mentor you and coach you through this. Because like you are naturally born with this, like, how can I add value? How can I connect? How can I be strategic? And it's like, great, that's one of your secrets of success, but you're also such a giver in the process. And so I would just encourage people to watch you and interact
Thanks, bro.
interact and learn from you if they really want to take their strategic partnerships to the next level.
I appreciate that, man. And I love connecting people. And this is something else that I've just found is like the key to winning in business. You talked about it earlier. You talked about giving without expecting anything in return, but just connecting people, which is on a different level, but connecting people to people, resources that could help expedite their growth and not your growth, their growth. It changes everything, right? It changes
Yep.
everything. People look at you differently. And so like, for example, when, Caleb and I first actually truly met and started having conversations, it wasn't that long ago. I was like, this dude has so much potential to change the world. Like I wholeheartedly believe what Caleb is teaching, what Caleb is doing right now in his business, he's going to change millions and millions and millions of lives in the future. I got to help him grow.
Yeah.
And whenever you have that mindset and whenever you truly believe in other people, the world changes for you. And so that's something, dude, I appreciate you saying that. That's what I've been trying to do is just believe in other people. Listen, most people that you see on a day-to-day basis walking down the sidewalk, you're meeting at conferences, the people you're meeting at grocery stores, their confidence level is down here, right? Their belief in themselves is down here. So
Yep.
instill some belief in them. It
Yep.
literally takes no effort on your end to instill belief and help other people. The effort it takes is minimal compared to the energy you spend every day on other things.
Yep.
So, dude, I'm passionate about it. I love connecting people and I love helping other people. So I appreciate the kind words.
Yep.
Definitely, man. So let's talk a little bit about it. So BetterWealth, you got that started, dude. You started 21, you ramped it up. You guys have like 20, what'd you say, 20 plus employees now? And they're all pretty much all remote, right?
All over, and some people are overseas because
Okay,
we do
let's
our
talk
own
about it because
content in
these
house.
are online entrepreneurs watching right now. They're people who maybe have a small team, maybe they don't have a team. So
Yep.
how did you go about whenever you're building this team building a team that was efficient when everything's online. So let's talk, maybe
Yeah.
talk about some tips that you would give people to building an online team. And what have you learned in the process? Has it been easy the
Well,
whole way because it's online
no,
or?
no, it hasn't. And I've actually like, I probably can give you more war stories, and we're still trying to figure it out. I would say the biggest mistake that I've made, and this is such a cliche, we really try to do too much, and that was a mistake. I think that the other mistake is I didn't pay myself early on because I wanted to reinvest in the business, and that's fine. But what you end up doing is you end up lying to yourself about the success of your business, and so that would be like mistake number
What do
two.
you mean? What do you mean by that, man? Like when you say,
Meaning like we would be making hundreds of thousands of dollars. We would reinvest it. We wouldn't be super profitable, and I was just living off like the bare minimum, which is fine, but we weren't as successful as the numbers looked because I wasn't paying myself. And so it allowed us to grow, but because we weren't under financial pressure, I think we created a lot of sloppiness, and it allowed us to do a lot of things that we probably shouldn't do or couldn't have afforded to do if I was getting paid. If that makes sense.
so yeah,
So
so
it
you
just
were saying you weren't under, so you were, I'm just making sure I'm getting this right. So you weren't taking a salary, you weren't taking pay, just reinvesting everything. And because of that, you guys got more comfortable and there was no, is that what you're
No,
saying? Like,
it allowed us to spread ourselves too thin on a lot
oh,
of
okay.
things instead of asking what is the most important thing that we can do that can move the needle. And so what we're doing now is even the more money that we have, we're actually focusing on fewer things. Um, it, I'm focusing on fewer things today than I was 3 or 4 years ago, and we're way more successful today than we were 3 or 4 years ago. If that makes sense. So
Yeah,
I would say
yeah. Well, you hear
focus.
you. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I was gonna say you hear people say, once you get to like 100,000, you figure out that like $100,000 per year, maybe we'll just say 100,000 to a million, right? You'll hear people say like that's some of the hardest because like getting there, figuring out what works is the hardest, and like going above a million and like scaling up, it's just doing more of what already works. Is that true? Like, have you seen like
Yeah, I
scaling
would say
up a
that's true.
business? It's just doing more of what works at scale.
Yeah, like a difference between 1 million and 5 million for us is nothing more than just doubling down on what we did to get to a million, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And
I
so you were
yeah.
saying you just felt like you were taking on more activities. You guys were probably
Yeah.
investing in different parts of the business that, and then you got away from what was working originally.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm a big framework person. So it's like in any business, you have your offer,
Hmm.
you have a sales process, you have marketing, and you have your fulfillment. So maybe your fulfillment of your offer, the sales process, and marketing, and that's what makes up a business. So if you can't deliver on what you're offering, that's problem number one. Figure that out. Step number two is your offer so amazing? I'm a big fan of Alex Hermosi, and make your offer so good people feel stupid saying no. Then is your sales process the most life-giving sales process to walk people through and help them better understand. You might not need a phone call sales process. We do, but some of you just need a landing page that takes them through the sales process. And then when it comes to marketing, all marketing is just creating attention to the right type of people that you want to serve. So it's like getting attention and creating some type of hooks to get them to go through your sales process, whether it's a funnel or whether it's a phone call. So again, it's like people like to overcomplicate things, but I would encourage people to be super focused in those four areas. And it's like if you don't have the ability to get someone results, I would focus on that instead of marketing. Marketing is not going to solve your problem, it's just going to amplify it. Then it's like, okay, if you really have the ability to serve someone and you like that's proven, then how do you package that offer up to make it a no-brainer? Once that's done, how do you create a sales process to be like, whether it's on a page or on a phone call that can walk people through that? Check. And then it's like, okay, what's the best way to get in front of our ideal people that we can best serve? And that could be a strategic partner, that could be a paid ad, that could be a challenge, that could be, all kinds of things. Brand is a huge thing that we do. And so I think the big thing was I was way more attracted to the marketing side but I wasn't really clear about those other steps. And as a result, our marketing got mediocre results. So that, again, it's easy. This is $1 million piece of advice is if you get those 4 things dialed in, you're going to save a lot of heartache and problems. And that's how I would think about it. I wouldn't overcomplicate it more than those 4 areas.
Dude, that makes so sense to me because I talked to you briefly about it, over dinner one night. But yeah, we've helped, like we're in the process of helping a client that could be easily be like a 20 or $30 million per year company. But these four pieces, this framework you're talking about, there's certain pieces to the puzzle that is lacking. That just, you're like, hey, you have an amazing offer,
Yep.
but hey, the sales process is horrible. Or hey, you have amazing marketing, but the fulfillment. And so like there's certain pieces when you're growing these businesses that you'll notice tend to lack. And what happens is most people, especially when they find quick success,
Yep.
these people that find they may make $500,000 just like that, maybe $1 million in a year, and they're like, man, I'm on fire. But they never look at that framework you're talking about and figure out, okay, is what just happened efficient for long-term growth? And I say that
Right.
there's some people that relate to that, some people understand, but whenever you grow fast, like I'm seeing a lot of online entrepreneurs do, we just said like what you do at 1 million, you just have to do more of it at 5 or 10 million. That's true, but you also have to get more efficient. You have to figure out ways to improve the processes and the systems. So there's truth to what we said, but then there's also pieces in the back end you have to worry about. And so that's why I see with a lot of our clients that we're working with in our agency is exactly what you just said. So dude, I would definitely say that was $1 million advice right there, just because I'm seeing it for myself. And
Yeah.
so you said at the beginning that you were maybe just focusing more on the marketing and
I
not
just was
the
focusing on,
increase.
I didn't have that framework to think about it simply like that. So, like many people that are just getting started, I didn't have structure. So I was just kind of being like the most urgent thing. And for me, I tended to lean way more on the relationship side, which again was okay. Like looking back, we've built strategically, and I deferred, even not paying myself. You could say that was a mistake, but I strategically deferred to get to where we are today. So it's like it's hard in the financial service space to be an overnight success because it's like a lot of times you're selling longevity. And so
Right.
we built it the way would I've done things different? Yes, but overall, like I just have way more structure and I have frameworks of how I think about things, and it's not just based on my feeling or my gut, and
I like that.
which has helped.
I like that, dude. I hope you guys are finding some value in this. This and everything he's saying, I want to just mention this as well, is coming from his heart. And like, this dude is the most genuine guy I know. So him and his wife are amazing. So dude, you're growing Better Wealth, right? What's next for Caleb? Like what's your goals, dude? And I'm
Yeah.
not talking about necessarily in business as well, because
Yep.
I love bringing on entrepreneurs and my friends and just letting them share their vision, sharing like the long-term goals inside of business, outside of business. I think we sometimes just look at business and that's all we do is like business 100% all day, every day. But then we tend to miss out on what's actually meaningful in life and the fun times of life. So like, what's next for you, dude? You've built a solid company. I know you're going to keep building that, but
Yeah.
what's the
Yeah.
goals for Caleb and his family?
So a couple things. It's been very clear to me as a Christian that the best way that I can share the gospel and serve people is through business as a platform and lever. Okay, so for me, the reason I love business is you can provide value to the marketplace, you can provide value to the people that you do business with, i.e., your team members, and you can make a profit, which then can get sown back into the kingdom and serve other
I like
people.
that.
So like love that. Not for everyone. Some people are called to different parts, so it's very clear that just because it's my conviction doesn't mean it's yours. So for me right now, I love business. God like gave me a very entrepreneurial way of looking at life, and I want to use that well. And so Better Wealth is that platform. And it would be a major mistake if I took my off the ball right now because we have so much momentum and there's so many opportunities. I
Right.
would love Better Wealth to be the one-stop shop for entrepreneurs to unlock intentional living when it comes to their money. I believe we can get there, and that alone is going to be a huge focus. And I'm going to put a lot of future energy into communities, about speaking more, creating more tangible content, and really creating a place where people not only want to learn, but they want to hang. And so like that is where a lot of my input is going to go, because I think it's going to be the most strategic. I've talked to you about this. What I would like to do in the next couple of years is create a fund with friends and people that I love being around, and that fund would go and buy other businesses. Like some people look at real estate. I believe there's going to be so many businesses are for sale and will be for sale that are way undervalued, way underpriced, and that if you take a little bit of good inputs or strategy, maybe potential money, and you could take a business that's doing X and create an X, Y, or Z output. And so I love that opportunity. I don't feel like I'm ready yet. I don't feel like I have the maturity, the it factor, the ability to do that well. My hope is that as growing as being a CEO and what we're trying to do, that I can continue to be more valuable in that and be able to take down some businesses and opportunities and do value leveraging on a bigger scale. From a standpoint of ministry and family, like we had a very great conversation around how we can use our entrepreneurial abilities and take that into the church, but then also into nonprofits and even into family in general. And so that's an ongoing prayer request about where I should be, what I should be doing. And I'm passionate about a couple areas, about Christian apologetics, about getting people like ourselves to like mentor and serve others, because I feel like the art of doing that is where we win. Like the art of mentoring someone is where you're going to be gifted and blessed the most. I think there's a lot of opportunities there, and there's a lot of opportunities in the future for men in general to step up and lead better. And so there's a lot I could say about that, but the idea is to take the entrepreneurial mindset and be able to use it as a lever for the kingdom, for my family, and for our team members.
Dude, I love it, man. I could tell you're passionate about everything you just said as well, and that's another key for those of you online that are trying to build maybe a personal brand. You're trying to grow your influence. I think we all strive like to have influence, right? Most people, they may say, no, I don't, but most people want influence. And Caleb's a living example of living with passion, right? You look at the most charismatic leaders in life. You look at the most charismatic, good and bad. Charismatic is just passionate, right? Good and bad leaders, they all had passion for something. I could see that's evidence through Caleb. And so I would challenge you guys and ask you guys that are listening right now, are you living life with a passion like Caleb's has and displaying, right? You guys have a passion that will move. Like he was moving me. I was just like, dude, I want to latch on to what he's doing and like help him take his vision out into the world. So dude, I love your passion. I think it's a great example for people. And it's just amazing what can happen when you show up with passion on a daily basis. You have that belief in yourself like we were talking about, but not only just having that belief in yourself and your company, in your vision, but living it out with a passion where people can latch onto it. I think you do really good at that. I don't know if anybody's ever told you that, but I think you're a very passionate person. And I think that's one of the reasons why you've been so successful is people can latch onto you and latch onto your vision. Has people ever told you that before? Or do you feel like you feel that about yourself? Or
Yeah, I feel like self-awareness is really key. And I'm going to go back to what I realized about myself really young is because I have a hard time reading, because I don't have, I would say my IQ is not like everyone else's from a standpoint of how I comprehend things. You could take that as I'm dumb. I'm not going to amount to anything. And there was a season in my life where I was like, the goal of my life was to graduate college. Like how miserable, but that was like the goal.
right.
And then it was like, oh, actually my weaknesses can be a strength. It's just how you frame it. And it's like, oh, my ability to communicate and ad lib, it was because I needed to, but that's actually a valuable trait. Like we didn't script any of this. I have a natural ability and I have no anxiety to take any question and talk about it. And that really comes out of like me not knowing how to read and having to get through school and based off of EQ, not just IQ. Now, and again, I can read for the record. It's not that I just said, oh, reading's not for me. Like I've really focused and worked on things that are my weakness. But the other thing is like, I've just realized that I need to go all in on my strength. And one of the things that I naturally was born with is like a maturity, and then also the ability to connect with people. And that has been something that I've continued to grow and work on. And I know that as a leader, I need to go all in on my strengths. So I have been told certain things. I am aware that I'm better at some things than others. And I think the key thing is like in humility, knowing that 100 years from now, most likely, you and I are both going to be dead. No one's really going to remember us. Hopefully, the work that we had mattered. But at the end of the day, like we are just like grass that's going to wither away, and the word of the Lord's going to last forever. And like we will someday worship God for eternity. That keeps me humble because
Bro,
I'm a
don't even
nobody.
get me started on this,
No,
man, because this is this is what I'm
but
passionate about too. So
that's like it's like another question I get a lot is Caleb, how do you remain humble as a leader? And the same thing goes like how do you remain sane when, as a leader, people are, you know, everything's your fault. It's knowing that our life on earth is very temporary. And so when it says in the Bible, don't worry about tomorrow, I think we shouldn't worry about tomorrow. And here's the
right.
point I'll make. In college, I was worried about test. Why in the world was I worried about a test? In high school, I was worried about my homeschool test. Like, as we look back on life, we're like, why did we worry? Why did we worry? I think we're going to look back on our 30s and 40s and 50s and go like, why did we worry? Why did we worry?
Right.
And so I think again, at 27, I can look back and be like, okay, I would love to incorporate 85-year-old Caleb into my 20s. And I think again, if you can have a sense of humor and have fun, like you're actually going to be wiser. And so that's what I'm trying to do. But all glory goes to God, and it just comes with perspective and trying to really go play scenarios and knowing that most likely you and I will not be alive in 100 years, and that really should humble us, but also help us focus on what's really important.
Dude, man, I could go on. We could like have this conversation for hours. That's what I'm passionate about. And if you've ever attended some of my trainings, I talk about that a lot because between COVID and around that time, I didn't lose like a lot of family members and friends, but a lot of people close to me maybe lost others. And it just became really apparent to me that everything Caleb just said, I'm not going to reiterate it, is so true and so powerful. And if you're living today, and I'm pretty bold, I would say, for some people when I say this, but if you're living today, all just thinking about yourself, just thinking about your tomorrow and not the tomorrows of other people, I think you're living life wrong. And so listen, you guys, you have to take what he just said and implement it. But dude, I don't want to hold you up here. Like, thank you so much for spending time with us and just pouring out what you got going on. And where can people like connect with you further? Can they follow you somewhere? Can they check
Yeah.
out Better Wealth somewhere? Because I want to make sure that people definitely connect with you. And hey, when you guys do connect with him, just let him know you came from this show, so
Yes,
we
please.
can build a relationship and a connection there.
So if you're on Instagram, just my my first name and last name, and please DM me that you're fans of the show. Like I would love to connect with you there. My email is caleb@betterwealth.com. If we can help anyone that's listening on the show, please tell me where you came from. We will take care of you. Like we'll take care of you in any area that we can. And then yeah, we also are on YouTube and have a podcast. You can type in Better Wealth, and if there's anything that we can do more, I look forward to coming back on the show, maybe collaborating, and who knows what that looks like. But I want to give you a little bit of praise. Connecting with you, I knew that you were going to be very, very strategic, and I say this out of love in helping me get to where I want to go. And so I love that we were thinking the same thing. Of just like, man, like I'm grateful that you saw what you saw in me, and I very much sense to like, man, I would love to attach my wagon to yours, and I know together we can accomplish more. Like 1+1, whenever it equals more than 2, you should do it. Like if I'm putting my
Love
input
that.
in and you're putting your input in, and we can create a greater output than just 2, um, that's a powerful thing, and I very much see that. And so, I guess my final words for the listeners is find areas where 1+1 equals greater than 2. There's going to be good things that happen regardless of how you apply that. You can apply that to almost any stage of your business.
Love it, man. Love it, man. Guys, listen, go show Caleb some love. Go follow him. Go connect with him at betterwealth.com. Email him. Listen, I promise you, they have so many resources that are going to help you grow, help you thrive. that you at least need to start a conversation with them. At least have a conversation with them so you can see if they can help you in your business. They have multiple sides to BetterWealth that can help you thrive in 2023 or beyond if you're listening to this later. But Caleb, dude, thanks for coming on. Everybody else, listen, we do these every single week. Every Monday, we bring on people like Caleb, people that are entrepreneurial minded and can help you grow further, faster. So listen, hit the subscribe button below. Let me know in the comments, what was your favorite takeaway from this conversation? What was like the biggest gem you found? Let me know in the comments below. We'll shout it out. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, listen, thank you for listening. We'll see you right here, same time, same place next week. Caleb, my man, we'll see you later. Thank you.